Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters. It's the final match of the day for Asia Pacific, at least before we send you over to Europe. We're finding out who's going to be joining Surrender, Tom, and Tiz in the semi-finals to be played out tomorrow, which should be very, very exciting. And it's between posesi and Tyler. Last time they played Gia, it definitely did not go so well for Tyler. But I think based on past experience, he's got a reasonable expectation to turn things around this time.
Definitely reasonable, but we did see posesi take several wins with Warrior in that last series. I wonder if Tyler will have changed his mind about the bans. Looks like he has not, and still the Priest banned away there. So on posesi's end, he could just go up for a very similar queue order where he started with as the deck that he probably feels is least likely to get a win, but if it does, great. And then later on, he can try and rely on that Warrior to really clean up.
Yeah, that definitely feels like the way to go for me. And, you know, we've talked about whether you go with your sweeper deck first, like we saw from Surrender on the Druid, whether you just go to scout for your opponents, what they're going to go for first, and then counter them as much as possible. I think it's kind of a hybrid of the strategy here with posesi. He's going with mage, which is kind of just generally decent matchups against everything, it's fair to say. Nothing especially overwhelming, nothing especially terrible either. But if it does lose, he can counteract most likely with the Warrior or the Demon Hunter, depending on what comes down first from Tyler, and should then be able to, I think, turn things back to a more even state, even if he loses.
Yeah, I feel like the Mage has a fair shot against everything Tyler is offering, whereas the Demon Hunter probably has more discrete matchup. The Demon Hunter is something you would probably want to counter queue into Rogue, for example, but not into Druid. So it is fulfilling both the role of a scout deck and possibly getting a win in there for posesi to start off with the Mage. Tyler on the Priest has Vulpera Scoundrel in the opener, and we've talked a lot about how we like getting onto the board early mage. Does that warrant, you think, keeping a 3-drop on coin?
No, I don't think so. The reason I didn't mind the Vulperas for posesi specifically was because his version of the deck ran a lot less in the early game. It had very, very few early plays because it was the 2 of regular Galakron version, whereas Tyler on the other side has Swampoo's, Vile Fiend, Disciple of Galakron, Zephrys obviously is the absolute dream. I think there's probably a fair few options you would rather hit in the early game. Given that as well, it's a fairly low curving deck. There's a lot of cheap spells and minions I think you'd like to hit.
Yeah, the Highlander version, of course, with the Raised Dead in hand, either could just go for the absolute dream of trying to pick up the Zephrys early. Another question I would have is whether the Pyro should be kept, because the coin and Raised Dead in hand can through quite a few of the cheaper minions from the Mage. But I don't feel that the Pyro is especially active until it's sniping off particularly Apprentice. And by the time posesi plays that, it's most likely later into the game after he's saved up for some big combos.
Yeah, I really like Tyler's strategy. This is definitely the baseline, the first instinct I had of just keep Raised Dead, and it works out very, very nicely for him. Being able to pick up Forbidden Words to snipe off the lab partner, huge. And also just getting a decent amount of tempo minions at the start of the game. Disciple of Galakron smooths it out. Anything played here will be copied by Mind Flayer Karj, assuming anything were to be played.
Yeah, the Disciple's a pretty good pickup, especially since it gave him another 5-drop minion, so it kind of dictates Tyler's curve here. Even though the Karj doesn't have a target for its Death Rattle, just getting that on board presents a problem for the Mage to deal with, and then Tyler can coin Cobalt into Convincing Infiltrator. However, posesi with the Arcane Intellect he got last turn has really made things smooth, and he can start charging up for the big pop-off.
Starscryer coming down, and it's pretty good here, actually, for posesi, I would say. Being able to get another spell in hand for this Cyclone Apprentice pop-off that he can go for on the following turn. Looking good.
The potion, Derek!
Oh, Posan with the Poshan. Oh my god. What more could I want?
It's just meant to be. Granted, he still needs some cheap things. Like, you want the potion to copy Apprentice and Mana Cyclone so you get a whole nother round of that to keep going. But the fuel has not entered the hand yet. But evocation is fuel.
Oh.
Second up. Hello?
Oh.
Yeah, you can absolutely go off with the first round right now.
Okay, Incantus Flow, not bad, not bad. That was quick, though, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Just Snap
Yeah.
going for Apprentice Evocation with only 4 slots in hand.
It's pretty much the opposite of what we've seen Posesi do previously, which is hesitate a lot and get
Right.
tripped up by the end. So, if anything, I like the intention.
I guess.
And honestly, I don't mind him just doing that for like 1 or 2 activations from Evocation because he has the potion for the
Fair
second
enough.
pop-off. So it just kind of works out in that he's putting stuff on the board this turn and next. Oh, Tyler sees the
Oh.
potion and the cyclone.
I mean, it's not a bad Cyclone for Tyler on this turn, right? He can just go Holy Smite,
Holy Smite.
Cyclone, generate a whole bunch of mage spells.
Indeed. Raise that only has the 1 disciple in it right now, so not quite worth.
Ooh. Font of Power gives specifically mage spells, doesn't it? It's not just spells from your class.
Minion, right?
Sorry, I meant minions, but specifically mage minions. So Tyler could try and get some synergies rolling there with some mage minions. That's the stuff.
Okay.
I'm looking at Combustion actually here, yeah.
Yeah, for the next turn, it seems like a good way to help stave off whatever Tyler puts on board. It
Ooh.
felt a little bit redundant with the Cone of Cold, but the Cram Session is also just maybe making his hand a little too clogged because he does want to go off again with the Mana Cyclone, and he already has Arcane Intellect in hand.
Yeah, I was looking at this line from Tyler. Depending on how like greedy he wants to be, he could go for Wave of Apathy to steal the Apprentice and then get like double discount on his Font of Powers to throw those down as well.
Fancy.
Fair enough, fair enough.
The wave being used like that is a scary proposition because there are mana giants in the
That's
deck.
true.
He's just going for the Discover, unfortunately. Our Spectator issue not allowing us to option. Oh man, the meme totem. Alright.
Of course it's Meme Totem. What else?
And as for the trades, I think mage spells make it so that you would rather maintain a narrower but taller board. So I like
Yeah.
that Tyler went about it this way. So it's much harder to pop off with this hand because there's nothing that's very cheap.
Right. This is the downside of having used up Evocation so aggressively at the start of the game. But it's tough.
Still a decent pop-off. I mean,
Yeah.
I would get on board with it because he has the 3rd Cyclone and just the follow-up of Power of Creation for the next turn. We're looking at charging up instead.
Power for the taking!
Can Tyler do
Okay.
anything funny with this potion? Not enough
Yeah.
space.
I mean, he could sacrifice something in and then steal the Star Crier with getting back the Cabal and then playing it and Wave of Apathy again. But I think, like you said, Wave of Apathy has a specific powerful use in this matchup, which is to delay the game later on. So I don't like anything too fancy on this turn.
I'm looking at the very basic play of this Ras. Heal up your Cobalt, trade it into the Firebrand. Or you can play the Meme Totem. Alright. Creating hand space is definitely something to be considered.
Whoa!
Because he has that Lazul that wants to generate things. This looks actively bad, right? These are just 2 very slow beasts that has to spend if he wants to clear up hand space.
Gia, you're so narrow-minded. You cannot see the combo of Desert Hair Potion of Illusion. 3 more Desert Hairs, 9 in total, coming onto the board. Literally unbeatable. This is Exodia Priest. That is what I'm going to call this deck now.
All right, I apologize for my narrow-mindedness or level-headedness, whichever way you want to see the glasses
The
filled.
combo though, you get the scavengers down, you sacrifice in all 7 of your desert hares. Oh!
All right, you're going a little too this cast. I can't handle it. All right, Tyler with him gets a power of creation for his
Disgusting.
own. It is so powerful.
Oh!
The double rushes. Hello.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Wait till you see this trick totem, though. Oh my lord.
Oh!
Even hits the
Hydra!
opposing minion?
What?
Okay. This is very much revenge for the previous game. But Posesi gets to go off one more time. Is it gonna be enough, though?
I'm not gonna say no, but I'm gonna say no.
It definitely looks dicey, especially since the Raz is just gonna kill off the apprentice after this. This
that's a
blizzard, though. Oh my goodness. How much does combustion do? He combusts and not go for the extra damage to get rid of the Raz. Yeah.
Right,
that.
that's smart.
It protects his minions in theory. Either can just Code of Cold them away, but he's board locked.
You just play Soul Mirror to give +7/+7 to your Gidra here?
I think I'll settle for the +4/+4,
Fine,
get rid
fine.
of their apprentice.
Oh, look at that filth.
And now just Lazul? Unless he wants another... it's order played, right? So he would get back if he played the potion there, the Cabal Acolyte.
Right, yeah.
Just far off the horizon, I think.
Nice one.
Good job, Meme Totem. So, Raz plus Cone of Cold. The
Yeah, the
strong minions
positioning.
are just too far apart. I'm not sure if Tyler was specifically aiming for that, but it did work out well.
So if it goes Cone of Cold with a ping, he can like freeze most of the important minions on the board was the alternative, but I guess getting the taunt down instead does a similar job.
Oh, I'm very surprised that he wanted to leave up a 5/6 Wind Fury and an 8/4 able to attack
Yeah.
this turn. It just feels like you die in a lot of situations.
I mean, you do is the answer. I think that most of the time. Like he can even trade away to get another Murazond for 1 mana on this turn, which would get him Raz and the Violet Warden, which would then buff the power on the Raz. Like, that has to be the most powerful thing he can do, right?
I'm just looking at Soul Mirror Penance, and a lot of stuff goes face. You end the
Oh my
turn with
God.
Raz spell
Yeah, yeah,
damage. That looks pretty- I wasn't sure if it was lethal or not, but
It's
it had
all
to be
just
close.
ludicrous.
Yeah. Had to be pretty close to lethal. In any case, Posesi needs a miracle to get back in the game. He has a 0-cost magic trick, which can get box. That's always the answer I default on.
Wait, what, the magic trick?
Oh, sorry.
3 or less, yeah.
Yeah. I had the evocation built into that turn already.
Right,
That's my
right.
mistake. Okay. So it's magic trick into evocation still to, or it's
Sure.
just double Cone of Cold, mana cyclone. It's just
Ray?
some way to generate box.
Ray's pretty good.
Okay, Cone of Cold, Ray of Frost, mana cyclone, get a box.
I'm on board. Let's do it.
Ah, those are bad.
Okay,
Those are
those are
terrible.
And now, like, do you go Murazond? It's kind of bad because it's going to freeze all of your stuff.
Yes. Not enough code enough could justify. You can just go Madame Lazul off of the Potion of Illusion as well.
Yeah. I mean, he can do so many different things. He could steal the 1/3 with a Cabal Acolyte that he gets off the potion. He could just play some minions, right? He could just go Convincing Infiltrator Desert Hare, and that almost certainly wins him the game.
Just pick your poison at this point. We did see Tyler play a bomb on himself for the lethal turn.
Yeah.
We could still see the Desert Hare potion dream. Assuming he generates another potion.
Yes. Yes. With a lot more steps, it could be real.
Of course. We're at that point in the game now, Derek.
True. Silly me.
I just constantly feel like when the mage deck gets to this point super far ahead, it's just a riddle of how can I generate box and stay alive this turn.
Yep. Or,
And
of course, find Prime is another big way.
There's still ways to stay alive. But I'm not seeing the win condition.
The future is clear. Your demise be
Just snipe a fireball from Posesi's hand or a pyroblast.
Yeah.
But it's nothing generated that deals damage.
I mean, if you can get Jandis or Conjurer's Calling, those are both pretty huge.
That one too.
Ooh.
Might finally be time for this Desert Harris to come down to her.
Ooh, going down to 27. Risky play here by our competitor, Tyler.
I am master of magics.
Job done.
Desert Hair Conj, the dream?
Ooh. Now we're talking my language.
Okay. Walking Fountains. Alakir, okay.
Okay.
I mean, you
And-
reroll on the 4/4?
Yep. Yikes.
I mean, it's good damage on board.
What?
Technically not
Yes.
dead.
The problem is that the priest hand is full of ways to kill your board. It can't actually kill you, but it can make sure that you never win. That's the priest special right there.
Apotheosis. Surely there's some lethal here, right? He can soul mirror to get the Alakir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just has to be.
lethal. Yeah, that's it. Trade the rest.
There you
Apo.
go.
Priest getting a win. I was saying at the start, it's scary for Posesi to have Priest left up, but not an absolute disaster. He has a couple of nice pocket decks to be trying to counteract this from Tyler. Namely, and of course, the Warrior and the Demon Hunter, which I would say are two pretty good matchups to try and wrestle this back from the jaws of defeat.
Yeah, I think that Warrior from Posesi has a great shot of potentially even sweeping Tyler's lineup. That's not just me being petty and hoping that Tyler will eventually start banning Warrior at some point. I think the deck is just well positioned, especially against Highlander Priest. Shuts down Zephyrus when you get several bombs in the deck, shuts down the Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza, and even though at the beginning of the day I thought Druid had a good matchup against Warrior and Rogue did not, after having seen these matches played out and after you repeatedly highlighted how the build of Warrior is a lot more weapon based, I have to flip my opinion on those two matchups.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth reevaluating where Warrior sits, especially with the newer versions of the deck. We're kind of at about half and half, I think, in terms of the players who are going with the new version of the deck, with the upgrades and greenskin in there, and the old versions that ran like Blood Boil Brutes as the kind of main tech inclusion that you're swapping out. The versions that I really like include Galakron as well, which is, I think, the really nice tech to ensure that you're in a great spot in the mirror and against Priest if you're, for some reason, leaving one of those two unbanned. But the core idea still remains in Posesi's Warrior deck here, which is it should be pretty good against a Priest which runs no weapon removal. Outside of an Acidic Swamp. So limited weapon removal, I should say.
However, Posesi will be starting off with his Demon Hunter. Soul Demon Hunter, we haven't seen this deck in action very much today, but it definitely seemed like the star of the show last week. And this hand is the juice for Posesi. He has the Spirit Jailer on one, Marrow Slicer already there, and the Panthera to help him cycle later on.
Yeah, I find the Holy Smite a little bit interesting as a keep from Tyler right from the get-go, because well, outside of Mana Panthera, is there anything that you're really hoping to snipe at the start of the game? Because I don't really see Spirit Jailer as worthy of keeping a Holy Smite in your starting hand. And I think I would have preferred to see more aggressive options explored right at the start from Tyler, which is, in my opinion, how the Priest really starts to dominate this matchup.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Maybe if you're playing on ladder, where maybe the Battle Fiend lists are getting a bit more popular, I can see keeping Holy Smite, but it doesn't seem to be very high value for Tyler there. However, picking up the Vile Fiend is absolutely huge when it comes down. Next turn, it gives Tyler some tempo, starts threatening a target for Apotheosis that will always have to be at the back of Posesi's mind.
Yep. To be fair, it does find the Panthera right at the start, so got the job done, and he can now continue on with Vulpera. If he finds any 1-cost or 0-cost buffs off of the Vulpera, like Powered Shield, of course, now at 0 mana, he is going to have the Rush minion ready to go once it becomes undormant.
And it does fit the curve pretty nicely. Posesi right away swinging with the Eldrazi Warblades shows you that he does not care about getting much healing because he knows he's the aggressor here in this matchup. The Ooze for Tyler, I'm sure, will be saved for a bigger weapon than this. You really want to snipe off the Marrow Slicers, which are the heavy hitters in this deck.
Speaking of, if available to come down right now for Posesi, but I have to imagine with this hand, he's going to be trying to milk a little bit more value out of each of his cards, given that the draw is kind of limited at the moment, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I like the idea of making sure every weapon swing can go face. It's just a question of whether he wanted to hold the Blade Dance for a board that's a little bit more powerful. In the end, he goes for it here because I think the curve is laid out a bit more smoothly if he plays it here, which is just Marrow Slice gets to go face these situations for the next turn, and then the Mana Feeder Panthera. If he floated 2 there or went Soul Shear, it kind of leaves 1 or 2 minions on board that's awkward, that the Marrow Slicer you might want to hit into a minion.
That's exactly it, right? The Blade Dance is the brooms, the weapons are the ball thing that you throw, and Tyler's face is the ice. Let's go curling. I'm ready.
Oh no. You actually have brooms in curling? I mean, you mentioned sweeping, but I didn't think the implement used in a sport would be an actual broom.
I mean, I don't think it's like an old school Harry Potter broomstick. I assume it's a little bit more high tech than some twigs on a piece of wood.
Okay, sorry.
I would know.
Just I imagine the 1 mana card. That's how this works there.
I mean, I'll tell you, Gia, curling's not for everyone. Let me tell you, it's an acquired taste of a sport, but for those who get it, there's nothing like throwing that ball across the ice, let me tell you.
In any case, Tyler managed to wrestle back the board a little bit there, and Posesi is swing with these Marrow Slicers, but the Ooze was saved for exactly this purpose. The damage, as it stands in Posesi's hand, is a little bit short.
Yeah, still quite a ways off yet. What he needs now is the card draw, or I suppose Volkel's, the kind of debatable inclusion that Posesi, I believe, has chosen to include in his list, would stack the deck so it's Sociologist into Skull, absolutely huge to get it all rolling.
But Posesi is absolutely stressed out by this Murazon coming down on curve, and you can see why. Tyler picks up his own Eldrazi Warblades, doesn't even want to swing into a minion because he values every single point of health on his face. Makes a lot of sense to me here. And he's even holding onto it because there's a possibility he further steals cards from Posesi to heal even more with the Warblades.
And while we were talking
right.
about needing to get the card draw, Posesi instead says, you know what, we're not going to bother with that. I'm going to hit Tyler directly in the face for as much as I can instead.
I mean, with the Twin Slice draw, there was one option with the hand he had. However, Tyler has a taunt. He has the Eldraki and his hero power to defend. And Posesi's already used the Cane. Uh-oh.
That is not it. Now the question becomes for Posesi, is he going to sink this damage into a measly taunt?
How does he get through it if not? Because he's played Cane. There's no Mage Hunters or Vulpera Scoundrels in this list. Played an I-Beam. If he top decks Blade Dance, that's the out, I suppose. However, if he does sink 6 damage into this 2/6, he has very limited ways of getting over the top with just the Twin Slice allowed to go face. There's 2 Glaive Bound in the decks for additional damage.
He's just playing to the top deck of being able to clear this off.
Ah!
But Tyler hit Zephyrus. That's GG!
This is a sweet bloodlust.
Oh. Call him the Curlmeister General because Tyler is sweeping this series with his Priest right now. Smooth as ice.
This is definitely the outcome that he had in mind when he was banning Priest from the other side. Tyler is clearly more confident in Priest being able to take series like this rather than Warrior. Still remains to be seen if that's the right mindset to go about it, but it finally looks like Tyler is at least on stream proving why he's going for the ban strategy that he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's working out great for him. This is like what Tyler does with his strategy. It's the idea that even if he doesn't have the absolute best figured out idea in terms of picks and bans with a cohesive lineup, he brings the best decks, he plays them very well, and things like that tend to happen when Tyler is behind the wheel. He makes it look easy, but it's just a great display, I think, right from the get-go. Even the Holy Smite is kind of the one real question mark that I had at the start. Really, I think in practice wasn't that bad. It was likely to find some kind of a target along the way to clear up the board for the rest of his minions. And it means now it's only the Warrior left for Posesi that he needs to clean sweep with if he wants to have any chance of turning this around.
You say only the Warrior, but at the beginning, I was thinking this was Posesi's best deck. In LHS, you don't necessarily need to open with your best deck, but really this will be the final test. If the Priest can get the win here, then I will have a lot more faith in that strategy of banning away Priest and leaving up Warrior. But on paper, and so far in practice, it definitely feels like Warrior gets the job done. However, there's an Ooze in the opener for Tyler, and that could drastically change how this matchup plays out.
There's a Oozes in the starting hand for Tyler with Raised Dead as well. This is looking very spicy because, as I was saying at the start, Gia, this list is close to the most popular one I've seen from Posesi, but the difference is he's cut the Horde Pillagers, so any time the Ooze comes down to destroy the Wrench Caliber, it will not come back. There are 2 in the deck, no matter how much you upgrade them.
And it will mean that Tyler will not get baited into oozing a measly Anchor here. He knows the Wrench Calibers are the threatening weapons in this deck.
Who in their right mind hides loot?
It also just becomes a question of whether Posesi feels like he can even afford to play around Raised Dead, or if it's even possible.
I mean, I like it from Tyler. You just chill here. He's got the hand. This is the counter to Warrior, ready to go.
I mean, he knows Wrench Caliber isn't at 100% too, because the
100%.
Corsair Cash was played, and the Anchor was not the weapon that was buffed. Posesi, he's just praying, please don't have it, please don't have it. It being not just Ooze, but Zephyrus, also a threat.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is as well that he could go for the small wrench caliber that wasn't drawn off the Corsair cache in order to try and bait out the ooze. But then Tyler knows that both wrench calibers are in hand. Ooze, Raised Dead Ooze will destroy both of them. He only has to deal with 2 bombs in his deck for the entire game.
Whoa! 0 even! Oh my god! Or 1 deck, 1 bomb in the deck, which is essentially 0 as long as he's relatively healthy, because 1 bomb means hits. And the Zephyrs could remain active. Oh my gosh.
Is this ever a situation where you go coin Cabal Shadow Priest instead to deny the draw? Like, you don't have to clear off the weapon on this turn, right?
You don't. Especially since he's seen a bomb get drawn already.
Right.
But I think Tyler actually wants
it.
Ooze to die immediately so he can guaranteed raise dead it back.
Yep. I mean, already for Posesi, there's no Galacrond in the list, so he can't get the extra damage that way. The only real threats that are left full stop is Deathwing. Blastmaster Boom, I think it's tenuous at best to call it a remove or a real threat in the deck.
Posesi knows what's up. I think he's already given up in his mind, and I can't blame him. After this third weapon is gone, there's just not enough bombs to get there. Captain Greenskin will not be buffing anything. The cutting classes are expensive. Tyler's just counting and recounting, shrugging like, that's it, right? I won, right? That's all the weapons.
Me and Tyler on our other monitors doing the exact same thing. They're like, okay, so it's both wrench calibers, no horde pillagers. He generated a pirate already, and it wasn't a horde pillager. What possibly is there left?
Just minions? Blastmaster Boom for, like, a regular Dr. Boom at this point? Oh, man. Does he ever get there with a giant upgrade weapon? Just upgrade for the 1-3 into Captain Greenskin.
Oh my god.
Upgrade it again.
Or just make like a 5/7 Arcanite Reaper on steroids.
That's the best out I can think of, Dara.
Okay, let's go. Maybe Krasinov gets to attack like 7 times over the course of the game.
And even then, this raid will very likely bring back Ooze or Zephyrs or both.
I wonder. Do try to keep yourselves alive.
It just feels so hopeless. This looks as good as any time for Tiamat Wind Fury Rush. You can even put down Sethic alongside it to play around Bladestorm. Posesi is like, alright, I'm out of here.
Yikes. Throws it down, and Tyler, in one of the cleanest, most dominating performances I've ever seen, ends us in a very prompt time, well ahead of schedule here, and destroys Posesi. I mean, he got kind of destroyed the previous time, but he absolutely turns it around in style very easily.
I mean, I saw Tyler typing right at the end there. I would not be surprised if that's a DM to you saying, told you
it
so.
It was.
Yep.
He says, easy, that's how it was supposed to go, match 1, Derek, all in caps. Well, I'm sure that's how it was supposed to go, Tyler. You're supposed to draw the absolute stone cold nuts every game and give your opponent no chance. Unfortunately, us mere mortals cannot quite do that every game, Tyler.
And that does mean Tyler advances to the semifinals tomorrow. Back-to-back top 4 performances, not just for him, but Surrender as well.
That's true.
Very consistent players right off the bat, those two, and looking like front runners to make Division A.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen from Tyler. Again, like I said, I stand by my remarks that I think he has room to improve in terms of practicing specifically for tournament play, but it is just undeniable that once he gets into game, he is at the absolute top in terms of the rankings here in Asia Pacific, really starting to challenge even the likes of Surrender, Glory, Alutemu, whoever you want to throw in there as well. And while my heart goes out to posesi after another strong week, I think he's still in a very good spot to get through to Division A after 2 back-to-back top 8 in a row. I believe we can take a look at what our top 4 for tomorrow is going to be once we kick off our semi-finals. Obviously, we have our 2 representatives for the first time in a while from Chinese Taipei, making the way through to the semi-finals with Tom, the former world champ, one of the most seasoned and storied players in Asia Pacific, with Tiz on the other side, who also qualified yesterday, one of the least well-known and storied players, I think it's fair to say, trying to make a name for himself here in GM and doing a cracking job so far.
Absolutely. When we saw Tiz on stream, I've been very impressed with level-headed plays. And Tom, of course, showing us up time and time again that he has what it takes. The Zoo deck, never something that we expect, but it was absolutely crushing everybody that it came up against. And that might be a deck that a lot of these players are not prepared to face in particular. I think easily Tom's lineup stands out the most of everyone here.
Yeah, it's a very unique way to go about it. Tyler's going to have his slightly different matchup knowledge tested. I wonder how his ban strategy may or may not shift once he faces up against Tom tomorrow. But that is us done for today. Tomorrow, as we saw there, it is going to be only 3 matches in APAC, the 2 semi-final, and then crowning our champion for week 2 to see who will dethrone Bank Yugi as the champion for this week. It's been a lot of fun today, I will say. Very quick day as well, with Tyler thankfully just steamrolling posesi at the end. But what has been the highlights for you today, Gia?
I think that game where there were 4 or 5 Solarian Primes played, that was fun, Derek.
Yes.
And yeah, to everybody who will be tuning in tomorrow, we'll be starting a little bit later than usual because it is just 3 matches. But you can always catch us here on the Hearthstone Esports YouTube page.
I'm glad you reminded the audience that we're going to be here a bit late, Gia, because last week I was at my desk at a prompt 8 a.m., 3 hours before we have to get here, like an absolute idiot. So for some of us here, that is a great reminder that we will be starting a little bit later tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching us today. We'll be back tomorrow with the semi-finals and finals. But for now, it's Raven and Sottle to take you through Europe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.